Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I am starting another pick a card and I'm using the Naked Heart Tarot deck to shuffle and pull the significator cards for each of the three piles. We're going to be asking the spirit guides and higher selves of each pile's collective for guidance they need right now in their situation to move into their best outcome and highest timeline. For pile 1, we have the Heart of Wands, which is the Queen of Wands. And that came out in reverse. For pile 2, we have the Innocence of Swords, which is the Page of Swords. About a month ago, I used this deck for significator cards for a different pick a card, and this was also the significator for one of the piles at that time. And we have the Heart of Swords, the Queen of Swords. Oh, we have two queens and a page, and two of them are swords. What are the odds? I really love the kitty cats on the swords in this deck. And those feathers are just gorgeous. Queen of Wands, Page of Swords, and Queen of Swords. Heart of Wands, Heart of Swords, and Innocence of Swords. Take your time, pause and take some deep breaths or meditate if you need to. Tap into your heart and your gut to feel into which pile or piles will have messages for you from your spirit guides and higher self on what guidance would be most beneficial for you, would be most helpful in pointing you in the right direction to move you onto your highest timeline towards your best outcome at this time. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you at your pile. Hello, pile 2. Welcome to your reading. This is your reading if you chose the Innocence of Swords or the Page of Swords. And thank you for bearing with me. It's taken me a lot longer than usual to come back and continue this pick a card with pile 2. I've really been going through it, so hopefully I'm not too rusty. And I'm going to start with the Unfolding Path Tarot. Pile 2, Spirit Guides. The Page of Swords, Innocence of Swords pile. What do they need to hear to help bring them onto their best timeline for their best outcome? What do we need to hear, Spirit Guides? Okay. Ooh, the Sun, the 19th Major Arcana. And the Hierophant. So interesting, these almost look like the same person, like at different stages of life, if you know what I mean, like an older version of the Sun, even though this is an earlier Major Arcana. So I'm getting a message from the Page of Swords. It doesn't make you less innocent if you dare to use your claws. And your innocence is whole like the sun, untarnished like the sun. And same with your connection to spirit. Your connection to spirit burns brightly, and that's where your innocence lies, is in your connection to source and your embodiment of source, your awareness that, or even whether or not you're consciously aware of it, but simply the fact that you are a fragment or fractal of the divine, sort of a fingertip of the divine in this world. The fact of the matter is that everything in the universe is part of God. Everything alive is part of God, or a part of the universe, part of source, part of the soul of everything. And your connection to that, and if you do practice awareness of that, your recognition of it in others is especially being drawn to, or rather my attention is especially being drawn to the fact that you recognize that in others, that they are also connected to Source and part of Source. You recognize the sacredness in everything. But somewhere along the way, something taught you that standing up for yourself, saying no, using your claws, owning your power, was tantamount to not treating other people as sacred, and that therefore there was something wrong or bad about you. You were a bad person. You weren't sacred or innocent anymore because you had tried to stand up for yourself, or because you had lashed out at someone. And the truth is that whether that was right or wrong to do, it's not wrong, just in general, for you to use your claws and for you to own your boundaries and own your power and use them, or use your power rather to enforce your boundaries. And it's not wrong for that to have an impact on others, even if that is an impact they don't like. It's not wrong for you standing up for yourself to have an impact on others that they don't like. It's not wrong for you to have an impact on others that they don't like. An impact that they don't like or that they perceive as negative is not always harmful. And even causing a minor amount of harm or damage in order to save yourself from being harmed and damaged by them is also not necessarily wrong. You're showing me like removing a thorn from the paw of the little lion that they've grown around, or the little panther. It's almost like that thorn that someone else wounded you with by telling you that, oh, you're a bad person because you lashed back when someone was doing you wrong. It wasn't wrong that they put you in that position in the first place. It was wrong that you lashed out in response according to their narrative. And that thorn has stayed, maybe in the paw or in the side, in the wound. And now Spirit is offering the energy of removing that thorn and cleaning the wound and letting it heal over, so that you don't have this automatic programmed response of, I'm a bad person, every time that your energy reaches for your claws, for your sword, to try to defend yourself. Having that type of programmed response, that's part of how, unfortunately, we train each other and train other things and creatures as well, is to go, oh, I'm going to expect the electric shock if I do that. And the electric shock may manifest as this thought of, oh, that's wrong, that makes me bad, that will get me rejected, that will mean that I'm not worthy of love or lovable or likable or okay or good enough or any of those things. But that electric shock does not actually mean those thoughts. Those thoughts are manifestations of the electric shock, and they're not necessarily actually true. So noticing when you experience that shock and noticing what thoughts arise and noticing, oh, is that actually true? Does part of me believe it even though part of me knows it's not actually true? And then seeing what digging needs to be done there, or whether it's simply a matter of pouring energetic healing into the wound that's needed, or redirecting the train from that track of the programming onto a new track. Depending on each individual circumstances, a different one of those responses might be needed. But the redirecting the train one is the one that Spirit is highlighting the most right now. Part of the curse of that particular thorn of going, oh, it's wrong if I react authentically, and that makes me a bad person. Part of the curse of that, oh man, I just completely lost that thought. Let's see if it will come back. Part of the curse of reacting authentically, being seen as bad or wrong, or making you think that you're a bad person. Yep, it's gone. I haven't had a thought yeeted from my head like that in quite some time. I guess it must have not been what was meant to come through. If it's meant to, it will come back. Okay, what other deck are you calling me to, Spirit? What other deck are you calling me to? And what other messages do we have? Pulling the 3 main cards together. Okay, the Spirit Song Tarot. Oh wait, no, okay. The Light Seers Tarot is actually what they were drawing me to. It just happened to be next to the Spirit Song Tarot. Okay. Spirit guides, what would help pile 2 the most with our healing, their healing? What would help them the most with healing in general, and specifically this pattern and this wound where this thorn was, where someone really made them believe that they were a bad person? Because I can feel how that, if I insert myself into this collective, sometimes I do use we and us rather than you or they or them, so just forgive me for that. If I insert myself into this collective, I can feel that this wound has followed us around, and that the resulting belief, part of me believing that I'm a bad person, has followed us around. So what do we most need to heal that and restore the innocence of the sun? We have the 5 of Pentacles. This to me is reflecting how it feels to stop suppressing the part of you that was made to feel you were a bad person. So that's telling me step 1 is unlocking and opening that door on that suppressed feeling and allowing the anguish to unfold and move through your body, even if it makes you collapse on the floor and weep. Even if it doesn't, no matter how big or small it is for you, opening that door and letting the wind blow through. That's the image Spirit is giving me. It's like the room is stagnant and stale, and fresh air will blow through. And even if it does make you collapse and weep, these feelings are never as big and consuming as they at first appear, Spirit is saying very clearly. Even if it feels like it's steamrolling you, it's never as big of a tidal wave as it at first appears or at first feels like it is. Okay, they're drawing me to the back of the deck here. The sun is on the back of the deck here. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna put that down here as well. 2 suns. There's an underlying message as well about I don't think this is what I was going to say before, but it actually fits the same start of the sentence that I trailed off on before about the real curse of this is that it made you think you were declawed, like, so that you couldn't defend. It disabled your defenses. And what makes it safe to be innocent in this world is having a strong defense system, a strong willingness to say no when someone shames you for being innocent, when someone tries to take advantage of your innocence, when someone tries to tell you what you are. What makes it okay to be open-hearted and joyful and pure in this world is having a strong filter and defense system against impurities, so that you're not always scared to walk around the world, and so that even when you're scared, you're able to carry the vulnerable parts of yourself like, a mother, human or animal, carrying their baby in their arms or on their back, and protecting it as with love as they walk through this world. It's not necessary to suppress the innocence and deny it and lock it up to carry it through the world, if you're able to really embody it and also embody the mama bear. So this, I think, is a different finish to that sentence I started before than the one I was originally going to come out with. But that's what I'm being called to say now. The real curse of being conditioned to get the electric shock and believe that you're bad every time your energy reaches to poke out the claws and draw the sword and reaches to defend yourself, is that it taught you you weren't worth defending, and that it declawed you, it disabled your defenses, so that actually that innocence was much more vulnerable than it would have been before. And it's kind of this adding insult to injury level, that it also convinced you that you weren't innocent and that you were less worthy and that you were less sacred and that you were bad. That's kind of like this adding insult to injury, icing on the cake. The real meat of the problem is, or the meat of the wound is, the way it disabled your defenses, so it left you vulnerable to actually be hurt by so many things that you would have or could have defended yourself from if you hadn't been taught not to. If you hadn't been taught to disown your power. And that's an underlying connection between this pile and pile one. Pile one, it took me until like after the reading to realize that the Queen of Wands was the main card for pile one, because the Queen of Wands is really comfortable owning her power. And that's why it was inverted for that pile, is because they're going through this process of reversing the disowning of their power. And this is very similar, but it's getting at a specific mechanism that made you disown your power, a specific mechanism that was used to train you out of owning your power. That conditioning and programming to not own your power was a big part of pile one as well, but this is getting at kind of this is approaching it from a different angle, getting at a different side of it. So you might relate to pile one and you might not, but this is kind of more specific about, this is the mechanism. Anytime anger rose up in your system going, no, I have a boundary here, that wasn't okay for me. That's all anger is. Literally all anger is that wasn't okay for me. And you can never, ever own your boundaries or your power without owning your anger. And I love this phrase, innocence of swords, because it's a reminder that that instinct to draw your sword and defend yourself is actually innocent. There's actually nothing wrong or bad about it. There's nothing, it doesn't desecrate the sacred for you to go, no, actually that's not okay for me. It's not an evil for you to lash out in that particular way. There are plenty of forms of lashing out that just cause unnecessary harm to both the person doing it and the person on the receiving end. But when you feel this personal truth rising up, and this anger from your very center, this anger that isn't like just inflammation, but that's like, that's a real no for me, this matters. Regardless whether it's a small thing that matters or a big thing that matters, it's an expression of you saying, no, I matter. How I feel matters. What I think and stand for and really believe as a core value matters. And it's good and right to be workable about and have soft, flexible boundaries about things that are not so core to you. But when it's a matter of saying, no, this is an expression of me saying that I matter, that reflexive wave of energy through the body should not be kneecapped. It should not be cut off. It should not be suppressed and locked up. It should not be pushed back. It should not be damned. It should be allowed to move through the meridians of the body and expressed through words and actions. And part of the point of childhood is that we're not supposed to be good at doing that with finesse yet. We're not supposed to be able to do that in a way that's mature and eloquent or elegant, or non-obtrusive or non-invasive. As a child, we're supposed to be learning just how to do that. We're supposed to be enabled and empowered and allowed to say no in a way that looks like throwing a shoe across the room, in a way that looks like raising our voice, in a way that looks like stomping our feet and throwing a tantrum, because that's what it looks like for these emotions to move through the body in an uncontrolled way. And we're supposed to get practice being human and having a body and having experiences of these energies moving through us and what it feels like. And as we get practice, we get good at channeling it into going to the gym or saying words calmly but firmly to people, or taking actions that are appropriate for the circumstance, and being able to assess what's appropriate at the same time as having those energies move through us. We're not supposed to have that all figured out at the age of 3 or 2, or whenever we first start saying no, or first start realizing on any level what's happening is not okay for me, whether we're nonverbal yet or not. I said that backwards, whether we're verbal yet or not, or whether we're still nonverbal or not. This sun has petals drawn on it, and there are the sunflowers underneath the golden sun in this card. The petals of a flower are very vulnerable, very delicate, like the wings of a butterfly. They could get torn from relatively little impact. But the burning core of the sun protects all of its rays. And with a plant, when something damages the blossom, another blossom can grow in its place. It's infinitely regeneratable. I'm definitely tripping over words a lot today, so thanks for bearing with me, guys. It's able to be infinitely regenerated. And you too are able to be infinitely restored. Okay, another part of the curse of what happened to you with the thorn that was injected into your paw, metaphorically, is that there was kind of this venom on it, is how they're showing it to me. And that venom that they're showing me is representing that whoever it was that made you think this, that trained you to have this reaction, made you think that just because you had lashed out once, that you'd hurt someone once, you were a bad person forever. Your innocence was ruined and tainted forever just because you'd made a quote-unquote bad choice at one time. So that's another part of the real curse of this. And this may be something, there's a strong sense here that for a lot of you, I'm being told not all of you, but for some of you, and you will feel this in your body if this is you, like this has been following your DNA through generations, your family through generations, that sense of like one ancestor did one wrong thing and they were deemed bad and, you know, cast out of the village, and all of their descendants have been cursed by that feeling of there's something wrong with me ever since. Yeah. Not necessarily literally cast out of the village, that may be the wrong story, but that feeling or vibration has been passed down ever since. And they're showing me something that I often get, which is this like collapsing inward spiral that turns into a black hole. You being the person who, by ejecting the thorn from the paw and the venom from your being, and allowing the wound to heal, you're reversing that spiral for the whole family. And they really want to take a moment of awe to thank you for that, and to acknowledge how much suffering has brought you here with this 5 of Pentacles here. Ooh, okay, and the 5 of Pentacles is linking to that feeling of being in some way cast out. The real core of the issue, though, is not being cast out from the village, although that may have happened in your family or metaphorically in your lifetime as well. But the real core of the problem is feeling cast out from yourself, from your own innocence, from your own power, from your own source, from your own connection to spirit and to your heart and to your innocence. And this divide, this artificial wall having been constructed within you between your innocence and your power. In order to be seen as good, and in order to be seen as innocent and not having done wrong and not having caused harm to people, I need to abandon my power or cast out my power or give the keys to the power to someone else. And if I own my power, then that means I must always and forever be seen as the bad person in the situation. And it's good and important to, ironically, it's good to be seen as the bad guy. It's good to be okay with that. It's important to develop a certain level of muscle for being okay with being seen as the bad guy in a situation. However, the issue here is that you were made to think you were bad when you weren't. The issue here is a different one. There's some overlap between the two issues, but it's at its core a slightly different issue from being okay with being seen as the bad guy. This is about being okay with owning your power and knowing that that doesn't automatically make you bad. There will be other people who will recognize that that is good and okay. And another part of the sort of problem or curse of this whole programming is that it trains you out of ever learning conflict resolution, because you learn to simply never express that you feel a conflict with someone else in the first place. So you learn that it's not possible to have conflict with someone and have both of you truly recognize that neither of you is a bad person. You just need to hash it out, work out a resolution that is a win-win, rather than either of you having to disown your power or disown your boundaries or take a loss or take some pain, accept being hurt for the sake of maintaining the relationship. And I'm being told that's what's really been passed down in your family more than any other aspect of the issue. What's been passed down the most in the family line has been the sense of, I can't have connection with anyone without just disowning at least some of my boundaries and taking on at least some sacrifice, some suffering, some pain in order to maintain the relationship. It's very much that saying of keeping the peace externally by starting a war internally, right? And that's that wall, is the divide internally, the way that you were pitted against yourself. Different parts of you were pitted against each other and positioned as antagonists when they never really were. Your power was always your innocence's greatest ally. And in fact, they're not even really separate parts of you. And that's what the integration that's allowed by this removal of the thorn and the venom is going to create, is that integration to the extent that your innocence and your power aren't even separate parts of you. Being powerful is not in opposition to being good. And a lot of you not only learned that that was the case, that being powerful was in opposition to being good, but it was actually learned by an ancestor many generations back, and that's been the survival mechanism of your whole family line, or coping mechanism rather, of your whole family line ever since. The way to cope with certain situations that were really difficult was to give away your power, give away the keys to your power, and deny that you had power. That's really what it is. That's a really recent revelation for me, actually, just a few days ago, while becoming aware of some inner child stuff of mine that's quite similar to what's going on in this reading. I realized that it felt like I gave the keys to my whole being to my caregivers as a child. And now I'm realizing how much that was the case for the whole genetic line, and how much that's a more accurate way to put giving your power away. Because your power, in a universe where everyone and everything is imbued with free will, you cannot actually give your power away, but you give the keys to your power source to someone else and say, you get to drive me. Whether you mean to say that or not. That is the sort of contract or agreement that you enter into with people in relationships where you give your power away or don't own your boundaries. And you're really seriously taking that back right now. And that is what is putting you on this portal or timeline or path to your best outcome. And it might feel like you've really gotten lost in the weeds recently. But that's because of how much you're going into the consciousness of these parts of you from the past that were really lost and vulnerable and hurt and didn't have any help or guidance. So don't hesitate to ask Spirit, to pray, to ask your spirit guidance to help bring you back and these parts of you back to the present and to the awareness of where and who and what you are now, to help you feel found instead of lost, and to help you dispel some of the overwhelm and let that sort of flush down the drain. Let all the feelings from the past flush down the drain. And like the sun, call in the energy of source, the energy of your own source of light and source of being, and the energy of your own being, your own soul. Call it into your body and into your mind in the present moment, into your heart in the present moment, to regenerate you like those flowers are infinitely regeneratable. You were never ruined. And I don't think this is the first time you realize this. I think you as a person have had your sunflower bloom damaged many times and have regrown it many times. But I think right now you're going back to the root, or at least one of the roots of that experience that has repeated through your life, of getting that flower head damaged and being told it was bad or made you bad for you to stand up for yourself, that you had to let it be damaged. It's normal in the course of the life cycle of a plant for the blooms to wither and die and regenerate, for new blooms to grow, and that cycle to continue. But you aren't actually supposed to be at the whim and the mercy of everyone else. They're not actually supposed to always get to decide that for you when that flower dies. They're supposed to get to die of natural causes sometimes. And so much energy has gone into quietly replanting your garden after others have ripped up the plants, and quietly regrowing your flowers after others have ripped off the heads. And it's time to get loud and brandish your sword and say, actually, you don't get to do that in the first place. It's time for that energy, instead of going into regrowing, to go into protecting. Not that energy won't also continue to go into the cycle of life and fertilizing and replenishing, but it's time for energy to be funneled into protecting the garden, protecting the boundaries, and not having as much repair work on your own energy field and heart and emotions and being and mind to start with. There's a meditation visualization that's really common in some psychic schools of imagining a golden sun above your crown chakra, and that golden light being a part of your energy field, but kind of above your energy field, and being a purifier, and you meditating on calling all of your energy back from any situations that any pieces of your consciousness or energy are stuck in, whether in the past or whether it's thinking about the future, and calling it back into that golden sun and letting the golden light purify your energy from wherever it's been, and then allowing that energy to trickle down like a waterfall into your being, into your energy field, from your head to your toes, to your fingertips, and even down into the lower earth chakra beneath your feet, and into the channels that connect you with the center of the earth, to really replenish you from the inside out and purify your energy as well, connecting yourself with your innocence, your connection to source, by experiencing with curiosity, wow, how much of this gunk that I've thought was like me or my fault or part of me actually gets purified when I let go of the situations that my energy was stuck in and just take back my energy and let the situations fall away. How much of that gunk actually belonged to the situations or in the situations, and how little of it actually belonged to me. and all this pure light of energy and attention and focus and consciousness and love actually belonged to me all along and belongs to me now. And that becomes your fuel, circulating through your body and your heart and your mind. So that meditation combined with running your energy, circulating your energy through your body, circulating earth energy up from the center of the earth through your feet, all the way up through the top of your head, and circulating source energy, the energy of your higher self and your connection to source, and what you might call cosmic energy, starlight energy, sunlight energy, any of that from above you through your head and through the rest of your being, all the way down to the center of the earth as well, and feeling those movements of energy and how they circulate your golden light through your being. These are meditations that you're being called to do as well. And visualizing, patching up the aura, kind of like this absorbing of the golden sun of your energy, kind of being like rehydrating a raisin back into a grape. And that being the effect your aura, the impact on your aura. And you can watch, crud and attachments fall out of any wounds that are patched up in this way. And you can imagine applying salve to wounds or healing water to wounds. And you can imagine a layer of protection, that golden light protecting the perimeter of the aura all around in 360 degrees. Maybe this is actually calling for me to record a meditation guiding folks through that visualization or this series of meditations that I just described. This might be a calling for me to do that, as well as for you to do the visualization and the meditation and practice that on a regular basis. So I'm going to keep that in mind going forward so that I can try to record that one of these days. And I'm actually being guided to wrap up the reading here, or soon-ish. I'm being guided to draw from the tea leaves first. But I'm feeling the winding down of the reading. Really, the energy healing is the biggest takeaway from this reading today. I really feel a strong sense of healing through this reading. Like, this is not just an informational reading. This is an energy healing that's taking place for those who are willing to receive it. Dealing is a relationship with a man with dark complexion or hair. That's fascinating, since we also have the Black Panther and the dark complexion and hair in these other cards. I love that synchronicity. I'm actually... Help me with the words for this, Spirit, please. Some of you have been taught to be especially repressive of your instinct to defend yourself because of the color of your skin. And what I'm getting from Spirit is not that you've been directly, you may also have been taught this, but the issue at hand that Spirit is asking me to speak about is not that you've been directly taught that you were a bad person because of your ethnicity, race, or the color of your skin, but rather that you were taught that it was bad for you to defend yourself, and that you were the aggressor if you defended yourself. And this is something that happens to a lot of people regardless of the color of their skin. It's something that happens a lot, especially to women when they react appropriately. They get told that they're crazy or oversensitive instead of having an appropriate reaction. But that can happen to anyone, and I'm being told that for some of you it was really specifically ingrained in you that it was not safe or okay for you to defend yourself because you were Black. I'm being told that really strongly. And I'm being told that you felt that you didn't really get to experience childhood innocence because of that. Because you were trained from so early on to be so repressive and so vigilant, and to be so wary about what space you took up. And so you felt that hypervigilance stole your innocence, and that the violence done to you and your family and your loved ones stole your innocence. Those feelings deserve to be validated. Those feelings are so real, and that pain really happened and did not make you any less of a person. What else are you saying about this spirit? They're saying that it's especially important for those of you that resonates with and applies to experience the integration of innocence and power, and to reclaim that joy from childhood, to allow the joy to unfold as a natural consequence of reclaiming or recovering your ability to experience life without constantly going, this reaction is wrong, that reaction is wrong, everything I do or say is wrong, everything I do or say could get me killed, all of that sort of thing. Yeah, it's a message about joy unfolding naturally that applies to everyone in this reading, but it applies especially strongly to those of you who resonate with this conditioning that you've experienced having to do with racism. We have lobster, financial pinch. Is it that one? Okay. Nest, an emotionally secure, loving family is important to you. It's interesting the contrast between the nest egg and the lobster, financial pinch. Okay, so we have some themes here. We have the nest and the parent birds protecting the vulnerable eggs, just like your power protects your vulnerable innocence period and innocent aspects of you, joy, childlike joy, all of that sort of stuff. We also have something about securing a nest egg financially, and there being a financial pinch going on right now. Okay, the message I'm getting about that from spirit guides who are whispering in my ear, not exactly whispering, but talking in my ear, is that don't let the current financial pinch discourage you from believing that it is possible for you to build up a nest egg. Don't let the history of your family discourage you from believing that it's possible for you to build up what could become generational wealth. They're showing me how some species of birds swoop in and steal the eggs from other birds' nests. And how your pain over that having happened to you or to your family or your ancestors needs to be felt and validated, and needs to no longer define your experience of life and your capacity and potential to actually build up and protect nest eggs. And that your liberation of your power actually is what's really at the core of resolving that issue, rather than it being, something someone else has done to you. That's really at the core. It's the things that other people have done to you have contributed to that disconnect from the power, but that connection to the power is what's really at the core of developing this healthy relationship with finances. Owning your power, becomes owning what you have the power to bring into the world that is of value and that others need, and it becomes owning your power to responsibly handle finances and to trust yourself with finances, rather than seeing yourself as a bad person who can't be trusted or is not innocent and who hurts other people or whatever the story was, and therefore can't be trusted with power and with money and things like that. Which one of these, Spirit? Okay. Pleasure with a close friend, dog close up. Some of you, this may be about literal dogs, where a relationship with dogs and or with close friends. But for this example, relationship with dogs really helps humans reconnect with their innocence. We see the dog's innocence so clearly, and we see that they see us as innocent. And it helps us realize maybe those sticky thoughts that have stuck to me for so long, of thoughts that told me I was not worthy, not innocent, not okay, not good. Maybe all those thoughts are just sticky and not actually true. They're just persistent and not actually true. And it might even be a practice that you want to engage in regularly, to go, how does my dog see me? How does my friend's dog see me? How does my friend see me? And that might even be something you enlist friends to tell you. And you might even want to confide in them how you've been seeing yourself, subconsciously or consciously, and have that catharsis with them, and see, like, it can be healing to see on someone's face how appalled they are that you think so poorly of yourself. Like, oh my God, how dare you say that about my friend? It can be healing to see that on someone's face. It's such a direct contrast to the, appalled looks you might have gotten for doing something completely normal when you were a child. And it might also be a meditation where you just sit with your dog or imagine them and put yourself in their shoes and their consciousness and think, how do I look to this person? How do I look to this creature? Or it might, more than that, just be a meditation of feeling the vibration of love emanating from them and permeating your being, penetrating your being, and letting it penetrate your being, receiving it. Just like we're talking about receiving the light from the literal sun and the literal stars, and from your meditation of calling your energy back into a golden sun and letting that permeate your being. Yeah, especially with close up, I definitely think actually cuddling with the dog and feeling, oh my gosh, if I actually stay present with this, there is actually heart. There's actually heart, and there's actually a love emanating from their heart to mine. Like, the love that I feel for this creature is reciprocated, and we are linked in this way, and we protect each other because of it. And that's what real love is. Real love isn't actually tearing down other people's boundaries. Real love is being their ally in enforcing them. And that might be quite antithetical to what you were taught in practice. So a very practical, much more practical than it might seem. It might sound fluffy, but it's actually a tremendously practical thing to focus on, to practice focusing on and receiving, and to meditate on. Is there anything else, Spirit? Anything else for pile 2? They're also saying kind of like, see yourself as the puppy, see yourself with that innocence. Something I am sometimes better at and sometimes not as good at, but have thought of for a long time, is like when feel like I'm straying from where I want myself to be or think I should be, to pull myself back the way that I would pull back a dog I'm walking, which is to say not violently, unless it's absolutely necessary, right? While I'm walking a dog, I say things like, baby girl, come back here. That water isn't good for you, it's dirty, we have clean water at home. I'm not cursing out the dog and telling them appalling things about themselves, and I'm not thinking underneath my words that they should think badly of themselves because they want to go sniff everything and want to chew on things that aren't good for them. They're a dog. You're a human. You have feelings. You're not supposed to be perfect. You're not supposed to be able to go forever without ever messing up. You're not supposed to never experience any sort of pain or hardship or difficulty, and you're not supposed to think it's your fault when you do experience those things. Any more than you would think a dog should think it's their fault. So ease up on yourself is really the biggest message from Spirit at the end here. Ease up on yourself. Back off on the bearing down on yourself. A mantra of mine for a long time was, the only thing I need to quit is holding back and holding in. And that's a big message here too. Is like, it's not that you need to fix yourself. It's just that you need that when you uncork yourself, let yourself expand instead of constantly crowding yourself back in because of those internalized abusive voices. The only thing I need to quit is holding back and holding in. Yeah, don't buy the lies, don't buy the stories. It's time to return to sender, sell them back, or just let them drop and let them disintegrate into nothingness, because they're just lies. They're of no substance anyway. It's time to let that go. So thank you so much for being here, Pile 2. I truly hope this has been helpful. And check out my website, linked below, if you are interested in personal readings or reaching out to me to consult on what type of healing might be best suited for you. And I hope to see you in the next reading. Thank you so much.